Welcome back. We've got a review of the Coachella Invitational. Just one preseason game left for New York City before they open their regular season in Charlotte on February the 24th. And we'll have Nick Cushing, Burke Risa, Dean Smith from Charlotte, Greg Vanney, Los Angeles Galaxy, and then it's the big kit reveal, big day in MLS on NYCFC Views.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. NYCFC Views.
Collins approaches the shot, and New York City wins the first MLS Cup on their first try, and they're going crazy. Tiene tiro y gol! Gol! New York City es el campeón de Major League Soccer!
The sickest New York City FC podcast. It's gonna be sick.
All right, here we go after a week off. And remember, we featured Matty Lawrence in our last pod, one of the New York City commentators. Ariel Hudas is on deck, but he's covering Inter Messi tonight. So we're going to give him a break and try to grab Ariel Hudas and let him tell his story next week. And then after that, it'll be Roberto Abramowitz, my wonderful co-host here on NYCFC Views. And then I guess I'll talk about myself at some point. But Roberto, welcome. It looks like, so you're just out of the lab. What were you studying? What were you identifying, Roberto, with your new goggles?
It's been almost 3 years without new glasses needed. So I've upgraded the look. At least I believe I have. You seem not to think so. Fine, be that way.
It's a matter of getting used to it. Shane, our producer, has a similar wide angle on his glasses, so we're all wearing the specs, and I'm just going with the same old ones I've had for about 4 or 5 years. So I stuck with it.
That's fine.
So Roberto, is just I really feel fortunate that I got out to this Coachella Invitational. I didn't know what was in store. A lot of teams. I was trying to get as many interviews as possible for both SiriusXM-FC and the New York City Football Club, doing the streams of the NYC games. But I have to tell you, it all started with me. I mean, look, it was great to be there for the soccer, but the surroundings were unbelievable. So there's this 10,000-foot mountain called San Jacinto, and no matter where you are, like it seems like whatever angle you were, you're always staring at it. And So, Shane, let's go out of order a little bit. Show the Hugo Lloris. So Hugo Lloris made his debut for LAFC. I was at the game, and I took this picture. But look at the background.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. It reminds me a little bit of Sandy, Utah. Just a little bit. But the mountains, or maybe because of the proximity of the stadium in Sandy to the mountains there, but that's spectacular. That is gorgeous country.
It's a little more somehow wide open or a bigger sky. I'm not sure how to describe it other than the fact I probably should have San Jacinto a picture to show you, but just imagine 10,000 feet, snow covered, and now there was also, I was asking the locals, well, where should I go? I had like half a day off. Where should I go where I can, maybe 5-6 hours? And almost everybody said, you got to go see Joshua Tree. And then Will Martin, who is Woody Wilder's assistant with Charlotte FC on the communication side, said, go at sunset. Well, I'm glad I did. So here's one of my sunset pictures up at Joshua Tree.
Look at that.
Yeah, I know. It was like, and again, you could see Indio where the games were taking place. You could see Palm Springs and Roberta, you'll know all these names. I don't know if our younger sect that listens to NYCFC Views would know, but Bob Hope, Lucille Ball, Desi Arnaz, Dinah Shore, Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin. I mean, this is where they all hung out. And I remember always hearing about it, but I didn't. Now I know why they went there. It's ridiculous.
I have friends that live in Palm Beach, so I've been dying to go to the area. I haven't Palm Springs, rather. Palm Springs, I'm sorry. Palm Beach is the other side of the country.
Yeah.
In Florida. Yeah, no, I'm dying to get out there. I have an open invitation to go whenever I want, and I just have to try to find the time to go out there and spend some time. It looks like absolutely stunning country. I mean, your pictures obviously verify that. You have a good eye for photography. Those are really great shots. So,
Well,
good job. I'm jealous. I'm jealous for a lot of reasons. Um,
wait,
the
wait,
fact
wait,
that you
wait.
got the call. Wait, no, let me
Okay,
go.
all right, all right.
I mean, I'm jealous because you got a chance to call all those games that I would have loved to have called as well. I'm jealous because you got that chance to be with not only New York City for the that entire time, but and you got to meet a lot of the new players and got a chance to speak to all the coaches. I'm jealous because you got a chance to meet, or speak to all the other teams and gather all that information. But I'm happy for you. It's a good jealousy. It's not a bad jealousy. It's not like, Jesus, I hate this freaking guy for that. No, on the
Well, that's why.
contrary,
Well, there's
I'm
another word.
jealous in a
It's not
positive way.
jealous. There's another word. It's called envy. Envious it's less. The connotation of envious is that you're happy for me, but you wish you were there. So go with envy.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, I'm envious, Glenn. Yeah,
yeah,
sure. Right. That was it. Yeah,
exactly.
exactly. Yeah.
Well, and there was one other activity. So I really did work a lot, but it was nice work. I mean, just talking to coaches and breaking down.
Yeah, poor you. Yeah,
And
yeah,
then, yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
but I also got to golf a couple of times. Check out this again. The view of golf. This is my second shot coming up on the 8th hole. Look at the background, and now you can see San Jacinto. I forgot I had a shot. So this is you're walking around the golf course, and that's your background. I mean,
Where's the tee? Not
well,
the
the
tee.
tee
Where's the
is
flag?
behind me.
Where's the green?
It's straight ahead. You can see the little flag if you look right in the middle, just
Oh my
above center.
goodness. I do see it. I
Yeah.
seriously do see it.
Look at all the
And you
sand.
were able to get over those sand traps in one shot and hit the green?
I don't think I landed on the green on this shot, but I got over the traps. I landed little left center, short of the green, which turned out to
Seems
be
to be an
okay.
incline there, but I mean, it's hard to say what the green
Oh
was
yeah,
like.
no, it's a
I
lot
mean,
of side hill
that could have been
lies. But,
flat. Yeah, that could have
all
been
right,
flat. Who
but anyway,
knows?
so this is that's my trip. But let's get to the football here, and I think New York City has this one match remaining. They're playing this closed door scrimmage against Austin FC. They're going to play 120 minutes, 260 minutes on Saturday. So a lot of people will play, but the intent is to go with whoever the regulars are. And Nick told me after yesterday's scrimmage, Nick Cushing, he said whoever we start on Saturday might not necessarily be the starting group the following Saturday. And certainly I think level of performance will play a role in that. But so they're going to play 260s, but 5 preseason games, including 3 at Coachella. Now, I know we talked about this at the beginning of all about whether winning in preseason is important. And because of the way preseason is structured, you're playing a lot of people, a lot of different minutes. I understand the obvious, look, results don't matter. But New York City, 5 matches, haven't won one of them, okay? They've tied 3 at Coachella after getting the lead in all 3 matches. Now, is that a familiar theme, Roberto?
Yeah, it's a continuation of 2023. It's different, but it's the same.
It's different, but it's the same kind of thing. And remember when I played the clip with Keaton Parks a couple of weeks back regarding whether he thought it was important to win? He basically said, damn straight, because we have to learn how to handle those latter stages of the game. Now, granted, yesterday's scrimmage against the LA Galaxy, it was almost their entire second unit or reserve team, or some players that might not even make the first team roster for sure. Now, given that the LA Galaxy game 2-2, up 2-0, understood that second half it's mostly reserves, a couple of guys that aren't even going to make the first team, like a Rio Hope Gunn at the back, Maximo Carrizo, although he did well. Nick made it pretty clear that he's going to get his minutes in New York City FC too, a 15-year-old. Going to talk about another 15-year-old that plays at Charlotte in a little bit too. But in essence, Nick seemed to just feel like overall they've grown during preseason. And look, they're not going to focus on the results. They're going to focus on the fact that they want to be ready for February 24th. I know you agree with that, Roberto.
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, just let's put the context around yesterday's game, okay? So New York City played basically their first team to start the match, and they were playing against mostly Galaxy Reserve and Galaxy 2 players. When
And
the second
Academy.
half started, right,
The
an
Academy
academy or
player out
whatever,
there.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
You get the point. And then when the second half started, the Galaxy put in a lot of their first team players, right? And New York City started switching out to a lot of their reserve players and a lot of their and a lot of their either NYCFC 2 players or academy
Well,
players, and
they
that's what they
really
did. They basically flipped.
they
So
flipped the
when
script. Yeah, they flipped the
right,
script. New York City went with their regulars in the first half. The Galaxy came in with
exactly.
it.
So
Yeah.
they beat the Scrubs 2-0, and then they beat New York City Scrubs 2-0. I mean
Wow,
that's
Scrubs.
basically.
You're going to hear from Mr. Carrizo on that one. But
I'll hear from his dad. I know that I will. That's not a
well,
problem.
that's who I'm
I
referring
can
to. His
handle
dad.
him.
Yeah,
I
that's who I'm
don't know if I
referring.
can handle the 15-year-old, but his dad I can handle. That's no big deal.
But
We've had our nice discussions anyway. No, I really like the guy. He's really cool.
But let's get back to, no matter who's on the field, the fact that 3 matches where New York City had the lead, they surrendered it and got a draw. New York City led MLS with 14 ties last year. So
Yep.
this is a part. So I'm going to serve up a little Nick Cushing here. We had a good long chat, a lot of which will be on Sirius XMFC and some more here on NYCFC Views. But it was partly mentality. And I don't know if you're aware of this, Roberto. Nick visited Liverpool, Spurs, and Girona during the off season to just, and it wasn't by accident. It was like he just has looked at the mentality of those teams from the start of the game to the end of the game. If it's 1-0, they're still attacking, and that's something that's really in consideration here. So that's a goal of the Nick Cushing 2024 New York City Football Club. And here he is from our interview.
He looked at a lot of the data around the team and the resilience and the maturity of the team. Because we have a young team, it's too easy to just say, well, we're young. We actually analysed the games in depth, and there was far too many moments when, we were in 1-goal games, so the games were always there for the opponents. And then once you really look in depth, you look at, once we went 1-0 up, how many shots and attacks we had after that. So then you start to look at the mentality and the application of the team in the vulnerable moments.
In an effort to make it 2-0, is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, I think if you look across all of the ties and maybe the games when we lost, any time that we were 1-0 up, we lacked a real consistency to continue to attack to make the game 2-0 to go on, and that's probably our strength through 21 and 22, that we scored multiple goals that won us multiple games. That is an area that we have to focus on in our pre-season, and we have to put into our coaching program, because that develops not only the attacking side of our game but also the mentality of our team.
So clearly put, we want to go at it and get that second and third goal. I think a pretty good example of that, though, was the opener against San Jose. Monsef Bakrar scored on a breakaway. The defender slipped at the halfway line, and he walked in and scored. Good finish. But a few minutes later, he had an even maybe more clear-cut opportunity and missed it wide to put New York City up 2-0. They end up tying that game 2-2. So it's not just about chance creation, not just about playing a higher defensive line, which you're going to this year, and it's going to be a little risky, but they're trying to win the ball closer to goal. But then you have to finish.
Yeah, of course, and that was a big problem that they had last year. They couldn't finish, or at least not as often as they would have liked. And it's funny that you mentioned this. I was just on this week on the 5 Borough Footy podcast, which was a fun interview. It wound up going like 90 minutes, and it was actually wasn't as much a podcast as it was. It was on Twitter or X on audio, and it's probably still there if you want to download it. Somebody wants to download that. And it was funny because I took questions from a lot of the fans, and one of the things, especially from the Cushing out section of the fans, that was one of the complaints that they had from last year, that the team seemed to have lost its flair, seemed to have lost its attacking mantra that the team had in years past. And as I try to explain, it also has to do with personnel. It's not the same team. It's not the same quality, last year, which is why this year, they've invested more in players and brought in, more players, more attacking players and higher quality players. And of course, one of the big points is, that the team in 2022 lost Tasti Castellanos, right? And they still managed to make it, right? And still playing exciting attacking soccer. They still managed to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, where they wound up losing against Philadelphia. Now, last year, without a lot of the, veteran leadership and a lot of the quality players that they had lost, obviously things went awry. So, you play to the personnel that you have. And I give Nick actually credit for that, because it's hard. I think it's wrong for coaches to try to mold a team into what they think the formation is, as opposed to analyzing who you have and then saying what is the best formation and tactics that we can use as because of the talent that we have. And I think that's always a better way to go. And now this year, we've seen an influx of talent. We've seen also reports, on the internet, and some of them seem to have legs from, there's been responsible reporting, and some of them seems to have legs that, players are still coming in. So, and attacking players.
One more player's coming in, and then that's going to be it, Roberto. But it's a guy that they're really, I think, counting on, even though he's just 18 years old. Let's Shane, let's skip forward to Jovan Mia. I want to make sure
Mihajlovic.
Mihajlovic. I've butchered his name.
No, it's Mijatovic. Jovan Mijatovic, or something like that. Mijatovic.
Hold on,
I got to read it, and I can barely see it on my screen. So
it's Mijatovic, and I think it's Jovan is the way it's pronounced. But we're going to find out when he gets here. But anyway, this was
we'll
the
get the proper pronunciation. So sorry for butchering it now.
So sorry to the 18-year-old. But in 14 matches in the Serbian top tier, Red Star Belgrade, 8 goals, 2 assists, and this is his Instagram. There's no club announcement yet, but you see, he says he's coming to New York City, and I don't think that's for a vacation. So, so you could leave.
New York City is the greatest city in the world, Glenn. And so, people do come here for vacations, but
right in the middle of the season, right in the middle of the season
in Europe, it's a little tough to do that for that reason.
Yeah.
So,
he's going to provide Monsef Bakrar with competition, and then when he does arrive and it gets announced that he's the paperwork and the medical and everything that's necessary here, it looks like it, and we know that there's still Trahinja Tanasijevic, I think I have that right, the defender, also from Serbia. He's not yet in. Augustin Ojeda, the exciting winger that they're looking for. He's 19. These guys, all 3 of them, could very well be in camp and be available for the opener. It could happen, which if you
think so? You think that they're going to, the visa process takes a little bit of time, and they haven't practiced. I would think
I'm just saying,
or maybe week 3. I think, but you were there, so maybe something.
No, but when I say available, maybe that's the wrong word. If they're in the New York City fold under the tutelage of Nick Cushing and his staff before the regular season opener, that's kind of what I mean, where you're really getting them integrated. I'm not saying that.
Okay, well, that's different from what you made it sound like, that they'd be available for selection, and that's what I want to caution against, because I think that the visa process just takes a little bit longer than that.
Wow, those new glasses have really provided you with insight and clarity. I like I like that.
Actually, that I've got blood pumping to my heart. It's a new feeling. It's something very, very different.
Well, it is Mijatovic too. I just want to confirm that it's Mijatovic that we're talking about. And
is it Mijatovic or Mijatovic? We're not to get it right. Well,
I know it's Mijatovic. I did look up that pronunciation. I guess I'm just not sure about the.
Well, something that New York City is going to do this year, which is very cool, so everybody gets pronunciations right. They're going to have everybody speak into a microphone on how their names should be pronounced, and they're going to put them up on the web, which is what should be done.
every team across the country, MLS, USL, anywhere where people have to especially broadcast the games and announce the names of the players properly.
So you
and
can
not
say
butcher them.
Agustin
Huh?
Ojeda. So you can
Yeah.
say Agustin Ojeda.
Is that the correct? What is the correct? Augustine? Okay.
Agustin. It's not. It's not. Even though it's
I
just
see it now. Yeah.
Agustin.
All right. Well, he's a guy that apparently is in the top 10 in the world for under 20 players for pace with a soccer ball at his feet. So that's nice to see.
Yes.
And we'll see. And he's got 1v1 skill. And that's one of the things. I'll probably play this one next week. Ask Nick. There's increased pace now on the flanks. Malachi Jones, the first round draft pick out of Lipscomb, the kid with the adopted. He and his 7 brothers and sisters, by the North Carolina family from Sierra Leone, an orphanage. He's going to play, man.
He's good. I mean, I saw him first game. I'm like, whoa, check this guy out. I liked it. He's got guts. He's got skill. The ball sticks to his feet and he beats people one-on-one and he loves it. You can just tell that this is what he wants to do. It's like, come on in, baby. I want to beat you. Let's go. I like it.
He can run. Ojeda can run. And the difference between Bakrar and a big part of the game that he needs to continue to work on, and if he does not excel in this area, it's going to be difficult for him because he and Mijatovic are different players from the striker position. Mijatovic can come back and get the ball back to goal, receive it cleanly. Bakrar really struggles in that area, but Bakrar is more running the channels. Mijatovic is not going to be that kind of player. So the first thing I think of, that's a perfect 2 striker front formation. You have one runner and one checking in, and then you got these 2 jets on the outside. What do you do with Sandy Rodriguez? I understand that. What do you do with Tyler Magno? I understand. What about Julian Fernandez? I understand that. There's a lot of competition. But if you need to get behind someone, it's
coming back too, by the way.
Say that?
How about Maxi? Maxi's coming back too.
Maxi's coming back. And Andres Jason, who had really matured last year, and he's in the mix.
He finished the season really strongly.
Yeah. So
for a team that had never had it,
we forgot
score a homegrown player score a goal, and then all of a sudden they started to come in bunches.
We almost forgot Hannes Wolf too. He's going to play a lot.
Oh yeah, there's him too.
Yeah. So
there's a lot of. I'm telling you, the team invested a lot of money in bringing players in.
Well, do you remember when I showed you my my 3-5 or my 3-4-3 formation? I thought that this would provide. And this was this is not having all the players in yet, but I mean that because of all this attacking talent, you're probably not going to go with 3 central defenders and 2 midfielders with New York City FC. I mean, we're looking at 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1, and
I guess this is going to be something that we'll have to ask, and maybe you did already, and ask Nick. Is some of the formations he's going to have are going to be opponent dictated? So is it going to be New York City? This is going to be our formation. Frickin' deal with it. Or is it going to be, I think we can maybe neutralize X player or X system by switching it all up? And so it's going to be interesting because he's got a plethora of players now.
Yeah,
I mean, and mostly attacking, and I still think maybe you need some depth pieces in the back, but we'll see. But maybe, some of those academy players are going to wind up sticking with the team and getting some minutes, and I'm thinking about left back, because behind O'Toole you only have right now is McFarland. So you wonder if they're going to reinforce over there. So we'll see. No. Or are they going to stick with him?
No.
And hey,
no.
I don't mind.
No, that's what they've got right now, and there's no reinforcements. I'm pretty certain of that. So it's O'Toole number 1, McFarling number 2 on the left. On the right, it's Micha Ilinic and Tavon Gray. Gray moved into the middle. He can play central defense, and I said on the broadcast yesterday, I don't know if you caught it, is that
yes, I did.
I still feel like he looks more comfortable as a central defender than a fullback.
Didn't we talk about this? Look, what was it, like 3 or 4 years ago, We talked about this with one of the assistant coaches, and I forgot who it was. Okay, because we knew, I brought it up before that Tavon on the U17 teams in the World Cup had played central defense. That was his position. But then when he came to New York City, they moved him out wide. And one of the reasons was because of his height. Now, he's not short, but for a central defender, he might be considered short. So for New York City way of looking at it, I presume it's more of a stopgap situation, because last year when they had the option to do that, or the year before as well, I mean, they would move Justin Hack into that position or somebody else, as opposed to Tavon, who actually had experience playing that position. So maybe now he's changed minds because he's got a couple of years under his belt, and defensively he's about as solid as any player you have on that back line. I mean, his issues have always been on this team, if he's good enough offensively, if he can cross the ball well enough, or make the right decision going forward. But defensively, I mean, the kid's solid as they come. So yeah. I'm wondering, if now they feel that whatever he lacks in height, if that is actually an issue, that he makes it up in other ways.
Well, he could elevate. I mean, he had a headed clearance. It must have been in the second half yesterday. That's the only time he played central defense. That I thought was pretty awesome. I mean, he got high in the air and got it out of there. But you've got the central defender coming in, Tanasijevic, for depth. But that's an area that it was Burke Reese and Thiago Martins, and that was it. You were either going to drop James Sands back, you were going to drop Justin Hack back, you were going to push Tavon Gray into the middle. Now they have the
Serbi. We're going to put Alfredo Morales back there anymore. That's for sure.
Alfredo, he dragging down Malachi Jones in the openers.
Yeah, I saw that.
And tapping Micha Ilinic on the cheek, friendly little tap on the cheek during a set piece.
I mean, he was very well liked. We'll miss him. He's a good guy. I wish him well out in San Jose.
Yeah. Burke Reese. So mentioned Burke. He was kind enough to sit down with me, and I don't know if you remember this photo. I remember being struck by a photo. It was his very first game. It was right after Leagues Cup. They played Minnesota at Citi Field, New York City. And he'd only been with the club a couple of weeks. And it was this photo of him almost like the captain would, you could tell he was encouraging words. He was gesturing. And he basically had just gotten there. So I asked him about that, and here's what he said.
Yeah, I think you guys see the picture bigger than it is. It's like, or it's nice to have to see me staking forward and take a responsibility on it. But I would say it's in my nature just to be on the game. And when I first get in my game mode, it's more like I gain energy from it. My teammates for sure gains energy from it. Me being vocal and try to push each other. It's been a part of my game since I can remember. So it's like, for me, it's very natural, and it doesn't matter for me how long you've been in a club, because I think we all want to achieve the biggest thing you can achieve in a club together and win the next game and the game after that. So it's like, if that can help people to reach their potential in the game and help them with this, I think that's a part of my job.
All right.
Glenn, I'm glad that you brought that up, because I think it's really important. And I remember that last year. I remember being taken aback that all of a sudden he just got here and he's like, I'm taking over. Okay. So, when last year, I think that there was a lot of questioning about who the leaders were and who one of the leaders were going to be, because of the youth of the team. What was the second youngest club in MLS. And obviously you had people like Thiago Martins there, Santi Rodriguez, who also, I think, quietly is a leader there too.
Yeah.
But you have other guys as well. But I love the fact that he came in and he was like, hey, I don't mind taking on this responsibility. I'm going for this. I'm a starter now. I'm here. I'm in the back. I'm looking at everything in front of me. I'm talking to the goalie. This is how I feel, and this is what I'm going to do. And I love it from him. I absolutely love it. It takes guts to do that. And I think that it's something that's very, very positive. And now that he's got a full preseason under his belt, aside from having played several games last year. I expect New York City to have a much more solid back line, at least communication-wise and everything. I think everything's going to go a lot better. Plus, everybody knows how everybody else plays.
I'm going to put up the full interview at some point, maybe on my other pod on Frame, just so everybody can hear, because I do ask him specifically about defending. I told him about watching YouTube before he got here and questioning whether he was a very good 1v1 defender. He had a good response. And then when I turned the mic off, I didn't ask this during the interview, but I had noticed that for the U21s in Norway, he had 6 goals in 23 matches. So I'm like, how'd you score those goals? Was it on set pieces? He goes, no, I was a striker. So not that long ago, he was a forward player on the national team level, youth national team level in Norway. He went to a club called Odd in Norway, winger. He transferred to Cone, which is the club he was with before he came to New York City FC. They originally acquired him as a winger, but they had 2 guys, I forget what it was, maybe one injured, one transferred, left backs, and they just needed a left back. He had a left peg, and they said, you're in the back now, and the rest is history. But how about that?
I mean, you talk about being multifaceted, and which explains a lot of things, right? Because one of the reasons, the main reason that they brought him in is that they wanted a left foot central defender who can switch the ball 40, 50 yards down the field to the right wing. And you see him do this, and it's effortless. It's absolutely effortless. And what Nick had said, right, was that whatever issues he might have defending, we can teach him that. And now we understand that better based on what he's telling you, that he really wasn't a central defender, right? So now he is, and if whatever, little techniques he needed, for him, it shouldn't be hard to learn. I mean, if you can learn all these different positions and they're switching you around, I mean, it's going to be a piece of cake. I'm really looking forward to seeing him play this year.
Well, he's a very smart player, and part of his response was just reading the game and not putting himself into a position. I don't know. We Maddie and I on commentary last year, we were expecting to see how he handled 1v1 situations at the back. He rarely put himself in that position, and it was very much through organization, vision. The one thing we do know, so his first 2 games with New York City last year, he played 10 in all, were a couple of defeats, lost 2-0 to Minnesota and then 3-0 to Cincinnati. But in the final 8 games, just 1 loss. And it was a tough one. It was at DCU, at DC United.
Horrific game for everybody.
That was one of the poorest games of the season. Unfortunate, because it was a stretch where New York City was starting to play pretty well too.
Right. They came in playing pretty well. Everybody expected a win against a terrible team, especially, I believe, that the Red Bulls had blown them out 5-0 or 5-1 or something like that in the previous game. And so New York City should have handled them easily, and they got totally outplayed. And that cost them, that game cost them going to the playoffs.
That was decent.
If you want to put it on one game, that if they had gotten a different result or they had done what was expected of them, that was the game.
No, it was. And that was Wayne Rooney's last game. Everybody knew he was leaving. It was the last game of the year. Remember, DC United had a bye for the 2019.
On the last week. So that was game 34.
So they were out of the playoffs even before the game started. They could have won.
They were in a playoff position.
Yeah, how about that?
A week to go, and they weren't going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, that was good. That was good. All right, so that's our guy, Burke Risa. I also talked to. I was so fortunate. We said at the top, talking to all these different coaches. I have a list of who I talked to: Dean Smith, Ashley Westwood, the captain for Charlotte, Dave Vandenberg, assistant at Portland, Frank Klopas and Chris Mueller at Chicago. Klopas, the new permanent coach, Mueller back from an injury, Luchi Gonzalez at San Jose, Josh Wolf, and Brad Stuver. Sat with Brad Stuver for a half hour. Wonderful to reconnect. And then Cushing.
What was the word again? Envious, Glenn? Was that the word? Envious?
Envious.
Yeah, envious. So that,
and then
yes,
Greg
that's
Banning.
what I am.
But we mentioned Maximo Carrizo earlier, and he's 15 years old. He's going to turn 16, as John Rojas told me yesterday. I think February 28th, he'll be 16 years old. So he's gotten on the pitch in preseason. But again, Nick alluded to the fact that he's probably going to be a NYCFC 2 player. You never know what happens, but that's where he's going to start the year. Dean Smith has a 15-year-old too. Now, I don't know if you watch this kid play. with the U17s, the U.S. U17s at the World Cup, Nimfasha Berkemes. It's Nimfasha Berkemes. He scored 3 goals for the U.S. He was the youngest player on that U17 team. He's the youngest player. I think he was the youngest player at Coachella, certainly for North Carolina. Charlotte. And he scored a goal yesterday in a start, and it was his second consecutive start. So talking to Dean Smith and starting the 15-year-old, he had an interesting response to that.
I can tell you the truth that there was more than a few eyebrows raised by my fellow coaches when I said I was going to start him. Somebody of 15 years of age, and I said, go on, be honest, ask me any questions about why I'm starting, and they weren't sure he was ready. But I've always been that you don't know whether they're ready unless you try them. Give them that opportunity. I've liked what I've seen from him in training so far. He's a fast twitch player. He can press very quickly because he's got real good acceleration. He handles the ball well. We're still coaching him. He's still learning and he's still developing, and he's still got years of maturation to come, which is really more exciting, being 15 years old. But I just like to give people that opportunity when I see them doing so well in training, and I thought he was really good today.
Are you a proponent of the old proverb, if you're good enough, you're old enough?
No, without a shadow. Wayne Rooney gets his chance at 16 years of age at Everton. If somebody didn't give him that chance, who knows how his career would go, and they need that opportunity to go and play.
I love it.
That's How about great. That?
Yeah, that's really good. And now I understand why you said North Carolina. Dean Smith, North Carolina. I mean, it's sort of hard. And it's sort of hard to listen to somebody named Dean Smith speak with a British accent.
I'm going to suggest, I don't know this for a fact, but I'm the only media person who didn't ask him about that. I decided going into that interview, and I had about a half hour with him, that I was not going to ask him about Dean Smith, the basketball legend, even though I love Dean Smith, the basketball legend. I've read his books, which are coaching books and really helpful. A couple of things there. First, the skepticism of his assistants, which includes Miles Joseph now, the associate head coach from Portland to Charlotte. And he talked about fast twitch player. Now, this is interesting, Roberto. I was standing next to Nick Cushing, and we were observing the Charlotte game before New York City's game. We were just watching, and there was this number 27 out there, and he was bossing the game a bit, but working so hard, but in a real positive way. And we kind of both looked at each other and said, "Who's that?" And Nick was saying, "Well, he's really had a positive impact." So I asked later, and it was Nimfasha Berkemes, and Berkemes is the way he pronounces it. And I thought that was, I was like, wow, yeah, well, he's going to have a chance to play. We're going to see a 15-year-old play in this league this year. There's little question this guy's making the first team for Charlotte.
Well, I mean, also Charlotte let go 2 of their DPs and, forward players. So we have to see who comes in and replaces them in time for the New York City game if they do. So it's an interesting way to start out the season. One of them didn't want to be there. The other one had an opportunity to go to Europe. So goodbye.
Well, we'll see if New York City faces them. It's the opener, New York City at Charlotte, February 24th. And we'll see what happens. One other coach I want to present, because I thought his response to this one was pretty damn interesting. Greg Vanney is the LA Galaxy coach. The Galaxy's opener, and it's their home opener as well, they're playing host to Inter Messi. Good old Lionel Messi and Inter Miami coming into town. And they're playing it at Dignity Health. They're not moving it to the Rose Bowl. But that's an interesting part of the story too, I think. But I brought up the fact, you don't want to look ahead, but Inter Miami with this global travel, and maybe that gives the Galaxy a little bit of an edge, especially since Inter Miami also opens the regular season on the 21st of February before they play the Galaxy on the February 25th. They open against RSL. So here was my little chat about that. But he talks about a couple of things that he experienced too, which I thought was interesting. Happy that they flew like 50,000 miles to play all these scrimmages across the globe in the Middle East. And they do have that appearance of maybe being a little worn out.
I tell you, I have two experiences. One was in 2008 when I rejoined back with the Galaxy for my last season, and David Beckham was here. And we did a similar tour where we went to Hawaii and Honolulu, and we played 2 games there. And then from there, we went to Korea, to China, to Hong Kong, and back.
Wow.
And we did not start the season well at all, and we had a tough run. Now, they have more talent collectively than we did at the time, but it was not an easy one. The second one was in 2018 with Toronto after the treble, and going into the CONCACAF Champions League, we did a trip to LA, back to Toronto, down to Mexico City to try to get used to the altitude and to play down there, to Colorado to play our first game, back to Toronto. We started to fly everywhere, and it didn't get us long-term what we wanted. We did well in the Champions League, but we lost so many guys over the process, and that's, well documented. But those are my 2 experiences with a lot of travel in the early days and then the preseason, and neither of them went super well in the longer term. So I hope for them that it does go better than it went for us, but not on the day that they play us. Hopefully they have
not on February 25th. No, it's going to be very interesting. How about that? Especially the Beckham experience in 08. That mimics that. And now Beckham is the owner, at Miami, and he's pretty much designed, with the help of others, I'm sure, almost the exact same trip, knowing that in 08 it was pretty disastrous for the Galaxy. Interesting.
Or maybe he didn't, and was against it, and the Mas brothers decided, oh no, we need to do this for whatever financial reasons, and they were like, oh no, we know better. I don't know, but I mean, Beckham would know that it's a bad idea to do this.
Well, our friend Ariel Hudas, by the way, Vanny, 5 trophies as a player, 5 trophies as a coach, all those trophies as a coach at Toronto FC.
By the way, the memorizing all those places that he went to all these years ago, it's amazing.
It's vivid. Yeah. Tonight, Miami's hosting Newell's Old Boys. Our friend Ariel Hudas is there covering for MLS. That was Messi's youth club before he moved on to Barcelona. So there's a nice connection there. But here's another scrimmage for old Inter Miami. I wonder how long
that's okay, because I mean, at least it's at home now.
Yeah.
And I think it's that's like the only good preseason game that they have. That's a positive, I think. Maybe you can throw in the FC Dallas one at the Cotton Bowl. But the rest of the tour, I mean, horrific for them. Yeah. And I think it's really going to hurt them. Aside from the fact that they lost Farias, they lost Kremaski, they lost not Alba, Busquets. I don't know if he's back yet, but terrible injury it looked like against Vissel Kobe. I mean, it couldn't have. They lost Messi for a while, right? Because he was feeling it. It basically couldn't have gone much worse for them. And I don't think they're going to start the season well. Based on what Vanny said and just based on logic, all those days that they could have been training, they could have been working on things, and then they're traveling, these plane rides aren't, here to New England where it's 29 minutes, wheels up, wheel down.
Yeah,
okay?
Yeah, I know.
We timed this because we've done this, right? I mean, we're talking hours and hours and hours and hours on a plane, and you got to still walk around every so often because whatever, it could be just horrific. And I don't think it served them well. I'm very interested to see how they wind up starting the season. I was also sort of shocked about the level of minutes that Tata Martino was giving his principal players. So like Messi played 45 in his first game, played 60 in change in his second game. And I'm like, well, he's 36 years old. What are you doing?
Hey, listen.
Right? I mean, that just seemed
Tata. Look, he was
good.
asked. He's been asked before about is there any pressure from the club, from the league about playing Messi, Apple deal, the whole thing, and he always denies that. There's any pressure for nobody's told him he's got to play him. That he's basing everything on the physical evidence and the data. So we'll just have to trust Tata on that. Now, the other thing, Roberto, so Miami opens on February 21st. By February 20th, there's this MLS rule that a day before your opener, you have to be MLS compliant from your budget standpoint. Well, look at this tweet. Look at this tweet from Tom Bogert. So they are screwed, said one rival exec. Trust me, because they've got to shed this salary / ad gam, as Tom has tweeted, that he retweeted himself, because, and as you see, 443,000 views of this tweet, because everybody's got the question. Look, Chris Henderson is there, the new sporting director, and I think he's done really a wonderful job in kind of escaping the 5DP thing that they had at one point that they had. But man, you see all these different players added at what has to be decent money, and I don't know all the budget rules, so I cannot even come close to satisfying a really intelligent conversation about this. But I do know I was with the Chicago Fire, and I know that, and this is after Kellen Acosta was going to be signed, and then it happened. So I talked to Frank Klopas about Acosta, knowing that it was going to happen while we were there. But the thing is that the Fire, the day before their opener, I think they have 2 more players that they're going to have to drop. Jairo Torres, the really disappointing DP, they flat out, just terminated his contract. So I think that was not good for the Fire or maybe even the player. But so if that's even half true, everything that's put down there by Tom and in his reporting, and I'm sure it is, that's pretty crazy.
I mean, we don't know, but we know, right? Do you understand what I'm trying to say? It just looks bad. It's sort of like, how do you get these players and stay compliant? Now, we don't know what the deals are, but it almost looks impossible for them to be able to have done this. And we're wondering, when does the other shoe drop? And I expected, and we talked about this, I'm sure, at some point last year, that we really thought that to help out Miami and to help out other teams that want to be a little bit more proactive and aggressive in bringing, players into this league, that during the offseason, that rules would be adjusted. But Don Garber, in his press conference before MLS Cup, shut that down pretty quickly, saying, we're not adjusting anything. So it's interesting to see how they're going to get compliant, what they're going to have to do, because it's not just a matter of, okay, we have to drop all these players and drop all that salary. That's not alone is not going to do it. They need to trade it for GAM. They need to bring cash in to pay down other guys. So just dropping them isn't going to do it. Now, I don't think there's a team in MLS that's going to try to help them out. Everybody's going to be like, well, I'll give you 10 cents on the dollar for Robert Taylor or, or Yedlin, right. I'll give you 10 cents on the dollar. And the only thing that can sort of save them is that they actually have 2 or more teams that might be interested in a player. And then they can start playing one against the other and then trying to make some money on that. But if Roberto, there isn't more than 2 players, 2 teams that are interested in somebody, it's going to be a freaking bargain.
Wow. Do you have any idea what would happen if they weren't compliant the day before that game or leading into that first match? Do they get fined? I mean, what is
last time when they got caught, which was sort of different, as you mentioned, they had 5 DPs, right? Yeah. And 2 of them were under the table. Was that they got a $2 million fine, and they got all sorts of other punishment about players that they could sign and things like that. There's going to be some sort of punishment for them. It's not just going to be, well, just drop somebody and we'll see what we'll do. I mean, there's going to be some sort of punishment, and it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. And they've got less time than anybody else because they opened the season against RSL on the 21st.
That's going to be an interesting one to follow. And from my boys at SiriusXM FC, just got notification this morning that every Inter Miami match will be on the air in both English and Spanish. You'll enjoy hearing that. But every Inter Miami match. Now, in the past, SiriusXM FC has always had this contract with MLS, and every weekend there's or Wednesday nights or whenever the games are. There's a variety of games on. There's there's a rotation basically so that each team. But with Inter Messi is a different animal, right? And look at their impact now on this place where I work too. Is like every game, I almost could believe it, but I was like, wow, and in Spanish.
Yeah, well, it makes sense, but they don't have a hell of a lot of programming in Spanish. I'm a subscriber to Sirius XM to listen to the Coaching Academy exclusively.
Thank you.
I've noticed that they don't have a plethora of Spanish offerings. It's something that I've spoken about, and I've asked the league repeatedly. And I asked Joe Tallison when he was working there. By the way, good news for Joe Tallison. He got hired by Apple TV. He's going to be doing games on Apple TV. I'm really happy for him. Gio Savarese as well, by the way. That's a little bit of an aside. Gio is going to be hosting the show. Diego Valeri is now a game commentator. So congrats to both of them. I'm really happy for Joe and for Gio. But I've asked every year, I ask, why aren't there games in Spanish, the same way that there are games in English? And everybody's like, oh, we're going to go look into it. And then I never got an answer. It's like because they should be.
Well, mark this down. Mark this down. It's channel 999. So you got to go up high on the dial. And that's that's not good. Okay. So then basically it's on the app. And it is on the app. It is.
It's only on the app.
Yeah, they can be heard on the app. Thank you for clarifying that. Okay, so
so if you start looking for it in your car radio, it's not going to go to $9.99.
That's okay. Everybody should be able to play through their app nowadays, right? If they're in the car, that's the way it works.
I'm getting CarPlay in my car. I'm very excited.
I rented a car that had it, and man, I want to get it now. I mean,
you can. For you, it's easier probably than for me. I'll ask about your car in my place. It's not cheap to do it for me, but it's probably going to be cheaper to do it.
Yeah, dude, ask for me because it was awesome, especially for navigation. The whole thing, man, it was like
CarPlay is pretty cool.
It was pretty cool. All right, let's go kicking it around.
My car is on the expensive side, so
time to kick it around. Roberto, I try to get motivated for kit reveal day every year, because I know what.
Stop you! No, you don't. No, you don't. You hate it. You hate it. Don't even go
wrong.
there. No, you're using, get motivated. You despise this thing.
You're using a wrong word again. You used before jealous when it should have been envious, and now you're using the word hate when it should be more I'm not interested. I don't hate it. I'm not interested. I'm interested in how the games are played. I'm interested in Orlando City adding Luis Muriel. How do you pronounce his name? Muriel?
I think it's Muriel.
As a designated player, and how that's going to enhance their attack. Or that New York City is getting Mijatovic to enhance. That's what I'm interested in. However, I also think that there's been an enhancement in the social media presentations of the kits. And they're pretty cool. So let's play the New York City one.
All right.
Thank God that a kid is DJing because that's how you know we're going to dance. That should be good.
Very New York City. Very New York City.
I'm disappointed that me with my new glasses and my new look, I wasn't invited. I think I fit right in.
I was just about to say, I didn't see anybody in their 60s in that video. I didn't see anybody in their 40s in that video. My wife and I are going to like.
It seems, Glenn, that we're not the target demographic.
That's been evident for a while now. But yes, my wife and I are going to that club tonight, though.
Oh, I'm sure you are. Like you know where Brooklyn is. Good luck with that.
No, I know where I'm a Brooklyn guy. I coached at LIU Brooklyn for 4 years. So
yeah, but that was so long ago that it's like it could have been Chester, Pennsylvania.
No, a lot has changed since the time I was there. I will say that. I was in a tricky part of the neighborhood, which is now like, hey, all things are cool, man. You know, it's yeah. So what do you think of the new kit, Roberto?
I actually really like it. It's very simple. It's got the blue and orange, which I like the idea of the blue and orange on it, especially as this team makes its way to Queens. So I think it's really nice. It's probably going to be added to my collection at some point. I like the green one from last year, the third uniform.
Yeah.
I really like that one too. I hope we get to see it this year. I thought the Parks one was pretty damn cool. They're doing a really good job with the shirts.
Well, the Parks kit was wonderful because I think there's like 1,700 parks in Manhattan. In the city, in the 5 boroughs, and it was just demarking.
As long as they don't put like dark blue numbers or dark orange numbers on the black back part, and we can actually see them. It should be contrasting. That will be very cool.
Yeah, just white numbers. If you want to put a little orange trim or something, that's
fine. You could do blue and orange trim. I think that would be fantastic. But white primary, we can see them. Thank you. That's the point of having numbers and names, so you can identify the players if you don't know them personally. If they're not breaking bread with you that evening, you should have a name and a number on them. It's not hard to ask. It's not a lot to ask.
At this Coachella, doing these games at the Coachella Invitational, and New York City played on this field 2 out of the 3 games where the cameras were shooting into the sun, in essence, and there's shadows and.
Was the producer from DC?
Yeah, have they corrected that yet?
No.
What Roberto was talking about is Audi Field. The best thing I've ever seen in MLS, not the best, it's just the funniest thing I've seen in MLS was doing a game at Audi Field and watching Julian Gressel, I think it was, having to shield his eyes playing right wing as the ball was traveling to him so he could see, because the sun was in his eyes on right wing. I mean, it was nuts. Anyway.
Anyway, is for our business, they put the press box on the wrong side of the field. And that's what they did. They made a huge mistake and put the press box on the wrong side of the field. It had to be on the opposite side, like where the sun is behind you when it's setting, because nobody plays games at 5, 6 in the morning during the summer. So so the sun shines into the press box, shines into the cameras, shines into our eyes, and for us faces. It's like a double negative, because not only is it shining into our eyes, but also we're enclosed in glass. They've put us in a freaking fishbowl at the end line. We have 2 fishbowls, one right next to the other, behind press row. And that's where we do the games from, totally enclosed in glass, where if they flooded and they filled it to the top, nobody else would know about it. It would just be us. And they're, oh, yeah, I guess we killed them.
Well, Audi Field for the broadcasters, in many ways, including the home broadcasters, it's a disaster. It's like it's just and when you think about putting a lot of thought into the construction of a stadium, you have to consider things like the press area, because you're trying to get publicity out about your team, So.
Oh my God! I mean, they did everything backwards. I mean, okay, I'm going to go on a rant here. So not only is the press box poorly situated as far as where the sun comes into the press box and you can't see the field. All right, so if the if you're looking at the bottom over here of our graphic of where we're sitting, so where we sit would be right under Glenn's right arm. Okay, that's where we sit. That's the field. That's the goal. The dressing room, okay, for both teams is to the left of that. Okay, so if you're looking at the left part of your computer where the screen is, that's where that is. To get to the dressing room, you have to go all the way to the right side of the press box underneath this arm right here. Where is it? There, right there. And then go down the stairs and then come all the way across to go there. I mean, it's like, how do you design this? I mean, it's nuts. For a new stadium, it was put together horribly. Now, are they going to let us go back after this rant? I don't know. They should. You know, take some criticism. The press box is wrong. It should be built on the other side. They should freaking correct it.
Hey, I'll do the game off of TV at a local pub. That would be more entertaining.
Well, if you have a couple of beers in you, yeah, probably.
All right, Roberto. Well, good one. Good to see you back, and you look great. And I know each day is better for you. And it's time now to continue your look at a cure for cancer and get back in the lab. So you can give us.
Hey, I'm just happy my heart's still ticking, and I've been to rehab now 3 times, and I'm pushing myself every time, and I'm being able to get out of there. So I'm here. So far, so good.
And you're traveling with this all to Charlotte, so that's the best.
Looking forward to it. And as you gave us the itinerary today, we get in earlier than normal, and that's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
We'll probably see our good friend Steve Goldberg at some point,
who I was in contact with down there at Coachella. But anyway. New York City's got the scrimmage, closed door, Saturday against Austin FC. Josh Wolf, one of the other coaches I interviewed, said there are going to be people in the stadium. It's going to be like a VIP thing. So, Roberto, I want you to do your research. Get out, all your contacts. Let's see if we can find somebody that's at that game and give us some information.
That's nuts, actually.
Well, don't go too crazy on it. Don't go too crazy.
No. Actually, one of my good friends and ex partners at ESPN, this year is no longer their play-by-play in Spanish, and so he probably would have been there. So we don't know what's going to happen. That's very helpful. Roger Valdivieso is no longer there, which bums me out.
All right, that bums me out too, but it's not helpful for us to get information on it. Well, maybe there'll be a little something, but I don't think anything's going to come of it, and we'll see what happens. We'll get to talk to the team. Will be back in New York, I'm sure. On Thursday, we'll be there at training to see what's going on, and hopefully do our next pod next Thursday.
Yes. Now, here's what I hope for. It's the only thing I care about. Nobody get hurt. That's it. If they come out 100% intact, no injuries, no pulls, no sprains, no nothing, it's a win. Aside from that, nothing else matters. Sorry, Keaton. I know that you think that wins are important and all that at this point. Save it for the regular season. Do it in Charlotte.
Win the first.
I don't think matters.
They're playing 260s. Win the first 60 minutes. That's what I say. And then you can. I think you're feeling okay. Yeah, we're gonna be different on that one all the way through. But nice to see you, Roberto. For Roberto Abramowitz, I'm Glenn Crooks, and thank you so much for joining us on another episode of NYCFC Views.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast NYCFC Views on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.